Everybody. Hey, thanks for joining. I've spent a lot of time doing second homes and some different strategies in my business, so I thought I would just share with you guys some of the different things that you can do, but also kind of encourage you to dream. While we're on the call, if you guys will type in the chat box any questions, anything specific, at the end, I'll have Mike read the questions off and I'll kind of go through some answers on that stuff. So first, I wanted to start with a couple of different things and I can't see everybody on my screen, so I'm just going to ask the question. Have you rented a VRBO or been on vacation and dreamed about it? Like, could we afford this? How could we do it? Have you crunched the numbers? My wife and I used to do it at this beach house that we rented in San Diego every year, and we crunched the numbers 100 different ways, and there's no way this $3 million asset made sense based on cash and those types of things. We also started thinking about, just the vision of what we wanted in a second home and what it meant to us. So I don't know how many of you guys, how long you've been in the business, what you've thought about, what you've dreamed about, but it's really important to have that vision and experience some different things. The cool thing is right now with VRBO is you can experience second homes just about anywhere in the country and get a feel for them. Even locally. And I think a lot of us have, I know we've seen a big uptick this year just with a lot of people experiencing more local and realizing what Arizona actually has in store. So I wanted to share with you a little bit about my journey as to where the second home kind of came into play. As most of you know, I'm big on the investment space, believe in it wholeheartedly. And, our second home is something that we've kind of turned around from what we were exposed to in 2008. A lot of you guys know my story of, being part of a big team, losing my ass in 2008, having a couple of toddlers and my wife and starting over from completely flat broke. But we had friends that had a cabin in Munns Park. Actually, one of the power partners in my home group, Advantage Home Inspection, Dave and Judy Swartz, who are the owners, have been good friends of ours since the days I watched Dave fall through carports during home inspections, when I was 20. But Dave and Judy had this vision for their second home where during the summer they scheduled a different family every weekend so that they could share Munns Park with them. And if you don't know about Munns Park, it's about an hour to an hour and a half, depending on how fast you drive. It's an hour for me. Up the hill. So it's I-17 north. It looks like a 2 gas station stop on the way to Flagstaff. It's not. It's actually a very hidden community that a lot of people don't realize is there. But anyway, we had the experience of Munns Park when our kids were toddlers. They played in the dirt. We did walks. But the greatest thing was getting off the exit and just having that relief of kind of no pressure from down in the valley and being able to spend some time with the kids in cooler weather. And so it really started, working with Wendy and I, we started working on our vision. Like, wouldn't it be awesome to have a place here? We rented a few times. We spent a couple more summers here and there with Dave and Judy. And it kind of turned to what it is now, which is crazy that almost 13 years later, we not only own the one that we live in, but we own multiple other properties up here. So I want to just kind of give you that journey of where to start and what to expect, because I think a lot of people, they go to the second homes, and it's very similar to how I teach you guys on investing, which is you got to start somewhere, whether it's with your primary, turning that into a rental property. Well, some of the same principles apply in the vacation rental, or not the vacation rental, but the second home rental. I'll get to vacation rentals in a minute. So we experienced it multiple times through VRBO, started to get a feel for Munns Park, what we loved about it, where we wanted to be, and knowing the time that we wanted to travel, like how often would we use it? Could we get up there? Could we afford it? And so here's kind of the journey that it started. Is we started with something small, right? I've been working with a lot of people in Northern Arizona recently where some of them are going for the very large house to start with rather than turning it into an investment journey. So I would encourage you guys as we talk about this to think about, hey, can I start with something small? It might be a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. It might be a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. Something small that fits your criteria. The greatest thing about buying second homes is the financing options, because you can buy them with 10% down rather than 20 because you're going to be occupying it. And when you do that, it doesn't mean that you can't utilize it as a VRBO or short-term rental in the times that you're not using it, to try to produce some income to cover your cost. So here's where we started. There's a couple of different ways you can do this. If you've got the 10% down, you're looking in the second home market, that's a great place to start. Be patient about it. Don't, just like my investment properties, your investment properties, don't buy just to buy. We live and work in a space that affords us opportunity. And so if you're patient, the right opportunity will come along. I don't care how chaotic the market is right now. There is still opportunity to buy things off market. There's still opportunity for, potential to buy something with some equity in it. So you want to be patient for the right opportunity to come along. Don't just go and splurge on it, unless you've got really deep pockets and you don't give a shit. That's up to you. But there's stepping stones. So right now we stepped into our second home with a smaller home. It was about 1,600 square feet. We bought it off market. The other piece to that is that, well, let me get to that in a minute. So we bought the second home, smaller. We rented it out half the time as VRBO. We utilized it the other weekends. And the way you do that is by blocking off the weekends that you want to utilize during the year. So the holiday weekends, yeah. I thought I started say something. So the holiday weekends we blocked off. Now keep in mind the holiday weekends are the big income producing, but that's okay. So we started off blocking off the weekends that we wanted and renting it out on the other side. So the first year we actually broke even on the second home. So we were able to use it about 6 months out of the year if you equate to days, and we rented it the other 6 months, and we actually broke even. So it cost us no money at all to buy our first second home. And that is the way you can kind of offset. So you got to be careful with, where you're going to buy. If it is a VRBO or it is a seasonal, is it going to work for VRBO? I know some of the stuff I've been looking at in Flagstaff right now and in Sedona, when you get into the outlying areas, it might not be as desirable on the VRBO type status with people. So just kind of look at what you're thinking about in that aspect. The other piece that was really critical at the time we started, and this maybe where some of you guys are at, is we weren't quite ready to take it on ourselves. So we bought it with a partner. We bought it with another family. And that helped alleviate some of the cost and tension of buying that first place. So you might have a good friend that's a real estate agent. You might have a great family that you've vacationed with for a long time. And that's a great way. So think about it. You guys could both put 5% in. Sometimes if the house is big enough, you guys can both utilize it at the same time, or you can take separate weekends based on your agreement. So it's kind of like a business partnership for a second home. And when you do that, you definitely want to make sure that you have some documentation, some business plans in place, because it is an investment property. And if you treat the vacation home like an investment property, it's another part of your business. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions so far that I can kind of address?
Oh, thank you.
No, everybody's good? Man,
Good.
all I see is a bunch of blank little dots on my screen, no faces. Everybody's off video, so nobody must have gotten up and got dressed this morning. So those are a couple of different strategies just to get into it. The other piece that I would say with the vacation home is something that we very much love, is we get to share with other families that might not be able to afford this, might be looking for some healing like Wendy and I were. And so there's a generosity factor in it as well that couples with a couple of different things. It kind of goes with, can you be generous with clients that with families that in giving them some time, either staying with you or allowing them to utilize the property. And potentially even we've had some people rent the houses from us as closing gifts for their clients. So again, it kind of gets you into that space where you can also exercise some generosity with your second home as well. And it's something that we absolutely love to share. Uh, we stepped up, right? So the first house we kept, and we have rented that for about 4 years now. This year, because of COVID, believe it or not, the very first second home we bought, which is now a first time or is now a VRBO, is grossing between $11,000 and $13,000 a month in income right now. So it's probably net wise, we're probably netting about $8,000 a month on that particular property as a VRBO this summer because of COVID. Um, so they've really become great investment properties as well. And again, it's a stepping stone. If you can buy a second home, 10% down, stepping into, okay, are we going to use it, then turning it into a rental property full time, you can then go and buy another second home with that same financing. And because now the other one is a rental property. So there is a stepping stone. So we went from the small house and we went to the current house that I'm sitting in now. Again, we bought it with the same family. We made this one a little bit more functional. So not only do we both have master suites in the house, but there's also multiple guest bedrooms so that we can all have guests at the same time. And we renovated. Obviously, you can see there's a lot of Wendy's touches behind me. She's the only one that I know of that can get away with a teal kitchen and make it look fantastic. But back to what I started with is being patient with what you're trying to find is really important. There are always opportunities, and don't feel like there's a scarcity mentality when you're doing this, because there's going to be something off market. There's going to be something that pops up, and it's about being prepared. So as I say that, let's talk about preparation for second home ownership. One, are you going to do it yourself? You and your family, maybe you have a 2-income household and you can afford to do it. Two, are you potentially going to do it with another family? If you're going to do it with another family, you need to have that business discussion with, are we going to use it together? What happens when we want to use it apart? How do we schedule certain weekends, certain holidays? Those are some of the questions that you kind of have to lay out. A good friend of mine always gives me the insight that you start with divorce or end in mind, which is, hey, when we're done with this, what does it look like? And so you have to be able to have those conversations, because there may come a point in time where you're like, hey, this has worked out really well, but I'm ready to go in my own direction. Either your kids have gotten older, or you have a different investment style that you want to do, or maybe you don't like living with that person anymore because things have changed. And that stuff is bound to happen. But just understand that the second home needs to be treated as an investment. It's a business opportunity. And so you want to make sure that you go through those. Financing wise, especially right now, it's insane that you can buy a second home. And I've had a couple of people do second homes with 2.9% 30-year fixed financing, which makes it insanely reasonable to own that. So just start thinking about this. Kind of goes with the vision. You start looking at your budget, what your income is. Can you afford it? And if you can afford it, can you rent it part-time to cover the expense, or do you need to rent it part-time? That was one of the reasons when we got our last place, or the place that I'm sitting in, we didn't want to put our stuff away. We wanted to leave stuff in the refrigerator. We wanted to leave our toys in the garage. We wanted to be able to use it whenever we wanted. It took us a while to get to that affordability, but it's a goal, it's a vision for that aspect. And so once you get one and you're utilizing it, you're experiencing the market, then your eyes are always open for the next opportunity. And that's exactly what happened with this house. It was a wholesale opportunity that came up, and it was a great price. The guy was pretty motivated to get it closed by the end of the year, and we were able to latch on to it and build some equity with the renovation. So you want to watch those different steps as you step up into that community. And you may find the first one you buy, maybe you don't like the community, maybe you don't like the location. Those are why that I try to tell you, do some VRBOs. I know that I've got one of my team members specializes in Pine Top, and he has a place up there. He loves it. He doesn't mind the drive. For me, I don't want to drive 3 hours to get there. I like my hour drive up and down. It gives me the flexibility to be up here and down in Phoenix and working my business in both areas based on that drive. It'd be really hard to do with a 3-hour drive. So you're typically there for longer weekends and things. So there's a lot of things to really think about as to what you want to experience in that second home. And I think it also, by owning a second home, it gives you some business expansion as well. One of the things that I'm sure that a lot of you have seen over this past year is it's given me some ability to expand because I know my community now. People see that I'm up here and they're asking me for my expertise. What is it like to own a VRBO up there? What is it like to own a second home? What are the maintenance costs? What am I looking at during the winter? I won't sell anything that I haven't experienced myself. So by experiencing this community, owning a second home, owning a VRBO, it gives me that knowledge to talk to my clients. And it's also given me a lot of knowledge to help you guys with your referrals. I've had a lot of you guys refer clients up here in the Flagstaff area.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
I'm great. How are you?
Good.
Good. Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yep.
sorry, I didn't mean to bug you, but she's ready to move.
She's ready to move.
So, I'm ready for her. I'm just going to text you the address.
Perfect.
And she can.
I don't think that they're sure.
Anybody else looking for a phone number and an address of what that is?
Okay, I found the person and I muted her. Sorry.
Wait, I was trying to get a secret address out of that.
Well, no, there's some secrets sometimes we don't need to hear.
I'm sure of it. Geez, now I don't know where I was at. Anyway, I just think that's some of, I really totally lost my train of thought.
Maintenance costs.
Oh, maintenance costs. Yeah, so it's very similar. Oh, I was talking about referrals. So I've helped a lot of you guys with referrals for clients. So thinking about this as part of your business, if you start talking about second homes, because what happens is you don't even know your client's looking for a second home, and then all of a sudden they bought something and you missed out on getting a $4,000 or $5,000 referral out of it. It was interesting. The Shireen Dora, another MHG agent and a private coaching client, she came up. We did some coaching that day. We looked at some stuff. She reposted an Instagram story when we were looking at houses up here. And sure enough, she had a client reach out through her Instagram. He bought a couple of days later, and she received a great commission check out of a $640,000 cash buyer just through an Instagram story. So just kind of an idea on the business that if your clients don't know that you potentially can get them in touch with somebody like myself that specializes in the second home or the investment space, that's a good resource. Can you imagine just having one referral a month? And the second home market, it's a more expensive market. So your referral fees are a little bit higher. And of course, I will say that it's kind of nice that some of the agents that have referred me, they're grateful to have me up in this area because they're kind of like, well, who do I know? Who do I talk to? Who do I vet? Most of you guys kind of know who I am and most of the shenanigans that I'm going to pull anyway. So let's talk about something that is amazing when it comes down to your business. And I'm going to share some of the small things with you because this gets very, very complicated in the tax strategy piece. What if I told you that I could save you about 20 to 30 grand in taxes a year through, and yes, that's taxes, like cash out of pocket, depending on where your income is. This is what I discovered a couple of years ago, and it was after the fact, is we've gone through, and right now, when you own a second home, it is not a tax write-off. It's sheer expense. The only tax write-off is the depreciation on the property, which you get a little bit of. You certainly don't get a bunch of interest write-off and those types of things. So the second home is a flat-out expense. It's like buying a luxury car. It's something you don't need, but you want, and you're going to pay for it. And there's no tax deductions. So what we've done in our business structure is our real estate team, which a lot of you guys have PLCs, you have teams, you have different things. So myself and my partner both own real estate teams.
Okay, go, Michael. Go. Hi. Hi. No, you think I'm operating with us? Hi. Sherlock, how are you? Good, how are you?
Hey, Kelly, Steve got
other
muted
people-
somehow.
Yes,
He's
can
back.
other people mute so we can actually hear Steve talking?
Steve, are you good?
Yep. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, good.
Okay, so here's probably the most important thing that if you're looking to plan your business and plan some things and a way to get income out of your real estate business and into you personally and still have the tax write-off of the rental property. So here's what it is in a very quick overview. The house that we own is owned by us personally, myself and my partner in our holding company. Our real estate teams rent it from us. And so because they rent it from us personally, it's a business renting it. This is, I do my office, my business, all that other stuff. So I can technically use that as a write-off. So it's renting it for me to do business up here. Same thing with my partner. And now the income is flowing somewhere between 20 and 30 grand out of the company that I'm not paying taxes there. Yes, it's coming in as income personally on a Schedule C, but I have the expenses of the asset. So the mortgage, utilities, those types of things being paid with that income. So it washes. So I'm not paying income over here, but it washes for this asset. And now what's happening is the business over time, the income will come out and the asset will be paid off without ever paying taxes on it. So it's a free and clear asset that the business paid for that I own personally. And I've gone through this with my CPA. It's pretty much bulletproof at this point, the way we've structured it, the way we've documented it. And it's a way that we're pulling income out. Now, if you look at this from a strategy of, okay, well, how many houses could you do that with? It depends. How many houses can you legitimately tell IRS that you're writing off as a office or a space to rent? So my team, Valentine Group, has to rent this house for me to do business up here. I can show commissions, I can show entertainment, I can show all of those pieces and why it's critical to the business. So there is a strategy to that. And it doesn't mean that you couldn't use the strategy that you're entertaining clients on the weekends, you're taking them on trips, you're doing those things, and those are different pieces. Now, I've structured that with my CPA. We've had lots of conversations. I've spent a shit ton of money doing it. Make sure that whoever your CPA is or who's planning your strategies, that you talk to them specifically. There's also a number of other things that can be done in there with variable leases. That's what we have structured. Variable leases potentially can cover other costs of things that you might want. So, we have a couple of side-by-sides that I like to play on with my kids. Our real estate team is covering that. It's covering that expense by pulling that in based on the variable lease. So again, it's a great way to structure your business because we're in real estate. We have some different write-offs. Some of you may or may not know, but owning investment real estate is a different tax classification because we have a real estate license and we do it professionally. We actually have a better write-off than the general public does because we're professionals in this space. So I can't even tell you the amount of money I've saved in taxes because of my rental properties, because of our VRBOs, those types of things. And I want to remind you guys, it's really, really important. I don't know how many of you in this class are new, a couple of years into it. You've been through school, you're on your teams, which that is amazing. But I want you to understand something that I think people really miss in this business. They think that they want to go into real estate because they want to make 6 figures a year, and they're trading time for dollars. The real advantage to having a real estate license is opportunity. And it's opportunity to invest in something that eventually you're really good at and you know really well. And it's kind of like, a stockbroker. They know the stocks. They know how the market works. They do all those things. That's why a lot of them don't invest in real estate, because they know the stock market so well. They're looking for opportunities. Well, guess what? You can keep working one commission check at a time But this right here, the house you live in, the houses you're selling, the houses you're helping people buy, there's opportunities all around you. And that is the biggest advantage of having a real estate license, is the opportunity to move pieces. You don't want to do or end up the way my father did, which is one of the things that drives me, you know, in my own personal stuff, but it also drives me to share stuff like this with you guys. You know, it's my dad, after 40 years in the business, dies and built millions of dollars of portfolio during the foreclosure crisis. And he died owning nothing, not one piece of real estate. And it frustrates the hell out of me when I talk to real estate agents and they're not seeing the opportunities. And part of that is just because we're not taught to see opportunities in our business. We're taught the sales, the leads, all these different things, but we spend very little time on what our opportunities are for ourselves. So that's why I wanted to share with you guys the second home, you know, strategies, because this is something that's very attainable for you right now. The interest rates are low. The down payment is low. You can do it with a partner, which is a little bit different than buying rental properties. It's something you can utilize. There's a lot of benefits to that second home when it comes down to it. That's most of my notes. So now I guess, you know, I've just kind of spit all that stuff out. Sorry, I don't have a slide deck. The internet, that is the one bad part about a second home. Munns Park, the internet sucks up here, so I just have to deal with it. I think I have a YouTube video that's taken like 5 hours to upload right now. So I want to kind of open it up for you guys, just questions. I'll answer anything that I can in this time for you guys.
Steve, there's a couple questions already. You've kind of already hit on them though, but
Shoot.
How do you do the taxes since you're sharing the house with another couple?
It's a K1 through a partnership. So it's complicated how you're doing it, but we have a holding company that we file taxes for as a partnership, and then it flows through to our taxes in a Schedule C. Or I'm sorry, in a K1.
On the same line, how does it work tax-wise as a business deduction?
A business deduction, it's a rental cost. So just like if you're renting office space, wherever you're at home, I'm renting this as a space for the business.
And then somebody else got in here about how do you manage the bookings, the payments, the cleaning, and et cetera of the vacation home, and do you outsource this?
Yes. I don't even manage my own rental portfolio, nor will I manage the VRBOs. The worst part about the VRBOs is just the maintenance aspect with the little nickel and dime stuff that doesn't work. So yes, I have a virtual assistant that manages that stuff for me. She's in Seattle. She takes care of all the check-ins, checks out, and vendors. She's paid on a percentage of gross monthly income. There's a lot of management companies out there. That's another good question, as a matter of fact, is if you're going to turn it into a VRBO, or that's your potential for future, that's what you're thinking, you want to see, you know, what kind of management companies are available in the area. And if there isn't, do you have somebody, or can you hire somebody, or do you have an assistant that potentially can do that for you? So this particular gal, she is part of the property management company that we own, so she's very familiar with it, and she knows how to manage all that stuff. But there's people like Turnkey Property Management. They do Scottsdale. They also do Flagstaff. They have a great system. They charge 18% of gross monthly income to manage the VRBO from top to bottom, which is, it sounds expensive, but they're super good. And if you saw their systems, they don't manage Munns Park because they can't get the quality control that they want in their VRBOs. But it is a very good question, is how do you manage that stuff? And at first it was kind of managed on our own, and then we kind of evolved into it until we could find a manager that could take it over.
Here's the question everybody wants to know. How do you find that bargain home?
People, so there's a couple of different ways. you guys are all familiar with the wholesalers. Maybe you're not. You got to be careful with that market. But when you're buying something for personal use or owner occupant or something of that nature, the wholesalers can be a good resource, because technically they're still finding those deals below market, but most of them are trying to sell to those that are trying to flip. When you're trying to flip, you're going to spend 10 to 15% of the sales price getting rid of it in commissions, those types of things. But if you're buying it for personal use, you don't have to buy it at 70 cents on the dollar. You might buy it at 80 cents or 90 cents. The point is, especially in today's market, if you can find something that's off market that you don't have to fight for, that's the kicker. In MUNs, you know how I find stuff? Sorry, phone ringing. You know how I find stuff? I drove up here yesterday to show a house. There's a for sale by owner sign. I called them. Can I look at your house? Yes. Oh, this is great. Okay. Would it work for me personally? No, not this particular one. I don't need another one up here, but it does work for a client. So you start looking for those things that potentially, you know, for sale by owners, they think they know everything. And to be honest with you, some of them are kind of ignorant because they want to kind of go against somebody that has knowledge of the market. And trust me, I bought some really good deals from for sale by owners because they weren't as sharp as they thought they were. And guess what? That's okay to take advantage of that situation. They asked for it. They put the sign in the yard. So that's a lot of, if you're looking, here's a great way to find something. If you, let's say you want to be in Pine Top, guess what? You can go into Facebook. There's Pine Top real estate groups. There's Pine Top VRBO groups. Go get added into those groups and then start following people. There's all kinds of people in Munns Park that are like, hey, I'm looking for this. I'm looking for that. And you start seeing where you potentially can pick something up just through a Facebook conversation. So that's another great way to find it. The other thing is just putting it out there that you're looking for something. That's where we've had a lot of opportunities come our way, is just by people knowing, because if people don't know, they're not going to bring it to you. If you have relationships with wholesalers, tell them to go make some calls in a subdivision that you want to buy in. Those are great ways to find some of that stuff. The other thing too would be expireds, canceled, looking back through history of things that have not been on the market in a couple of years, and go approach those people. What else you got, Mike?
There's no more questions on here. Does anybody have any other questions they want to type in here real quick?
Or you can unmute yourself and we can chat.
Just keep your dogs down.
Who's my CPA? It's actually Leanne Reisenhoover. She's over at 75th Avenue in Bell. I'll go back and post in the group her CPA firm.
What lender do you use for 10%?
Everybody is 10% down on vacation or on second homes.
Yeah.
That, you know, that's, Sarah, it's a good question, lender wise. Can I also tell you guys that I was talking to an agent yesterday and a couple of different ones over Facebook where they kind of jumped the gun on being ready for a vacation rental as far as their taxes being done or not having the 10%. Some of you have heard me talk about relationship money rather than hard money, but it's very possible the first house that we bought up here, you got to get creative and outside the box. Don't be scared to ask questions. I ask it all the time. Especially in the second home market, you're going to find people that have owned these houses forever and they're free and clear. So let's talk a little bit about being creative on the second home market. First house we bought, the listing was going to expire. We ended up buying it below market, and the seller did 100% carry on it at 6% for 5 years. We put nothing down. We closed on it in a week, fully furnished, and we were out the door. We didn't have to go through a lender. We didn't have to do anything. seller carries, seller financing, the seller's just playing the bank. And sometimes if they haven't been getting income on a vacant property and you can show them how to earn income and be secured as the first lender with a deed of trust or a note deed of trust, that's a phenomenal way. If you guys, I would encourage you guys, if you want, another training or something of that nature, kind of on the creative financing side of things, I'm happy to do that. That's what I absolutely love, is being creative, because once you get outside the box, you guys know, right? So I tattooed the word on my forearm, is everything has limitless possibilities. I don't confine my stuff to, well, I have to put 10% down, I have to get qualified, I have to do all these things, right? That stuff is just, that's there. You can think that way, but it's not necessary. So, the second home we bought with hard money at 9% interest. We renovated it and we refinanced it. We put 150 grand in this place. We refinanced it, but we were able to build $150,000 in equity through what we bought, and we refinanced it with no money. So not only did we buy this, renovate it, and refinance it, we ended up with $150,000 in equity, and we have zero cash out of pocket on this property. It's a mindset shift in how do I get creative and how do I move the pieces around. So you've got to get outside the box with the only thing that works is just regular financing, because guys, there are people out there with a ton of money that you might know. And I tell this to people all the time, and I don't know if it's fear of conversation or questions or whatnot, but the conversation is very simple. I had a conversation the very first time. It scared the crap out of me. I will tell you that. With a 70-year-old man that's retired, I play racquetball with him. The first conversation with him, I asked him to loan me $340,000 as hard money at 10%. It was 100% financing on a 5-acre lot. And I was scared to ask him. I don't know why I was scared at this point. I ask people for money all the time. You know why? I'm actually doing them a favor. They're getting an 8, some of my lenders are at 6% right now. They're getting a 6 to 10% rate of return on their money, and it's secured by real estate. Who doesn't want to be secured in real estate right now, right? Would you rather be in the stock market? Like, what has the stock market done back and forth, back and forth, back and forth over the last couple of months? You could wake up one day and your retirement be gone. You can wake up the next and it could be up or down. By helping people invest in real estate, by being deed of trust investors, which is what we do with those people's money, it's kind of like your own personal piggy bank. And once you start to establish relationships with those people, you have opportunity all the time. It's taken me years to do it, but the relationships I've established give me quite a big piggy bank to send a text message to say, I need X amount of money. Again, your license provides opportunity. If you can show people how to invest their cash by utilizing in you to buy properties, they already trust you. Now you can go through that and potentially have a piggy bank of your own that, yes, you're paying a little bit higher interest rate for, but it's temporary until you can refinance it or you're getting a great deal. So try to get outside the box, right? You might find something, right, that looks like it would work, but you need some creative outside the box thinking. Well, that's kind of where some of my consulting comes in, that if you desire, like, hey, I've got this crazy deal, is there any way I can put it together? We can talk about a consulting deal that I do on the side for that stuff to help you get there. And that's where, a lot of people fears, like, they just don't know how to put it together. And a lot of times, if you give me the ability to look at something from 30,000 feet, I can give you a couple of different angles to get to that point. Now, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but there's ways to get there.
Yeah, just a couple of general questions would love a class on creative finances. So Kelly and us will take a note on that. And maybe your next class, you can get into that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Steve, this is Patrick.
Hey, Patrick.
So I love your outside the box thinking. And I know
Thank you.
you're not a CPA, but can you kind of go over the tax benefits again and like that outside the box thinking for making this profitable for us as real estate agents?
Yeah, for real estate agents, because we have flexibility in our business, there's, and again, I've got a more complicated system to this. I'm just kind of giving the overview, but it's a way to, normally what happens, let me reverse this. If you bought a rental property, you're renting it to a tenant, right? So your tenant's paying rent and you're getting depreciation, you're getting expenses, or you're getting income, but you also have expenses. So it's paying off that asset, right? So if you were to go buy a second home, now what you want to do is you own that personally. And if you can legitimately, now you have to do this legitimately. I can, and I can show you how to do it as well. It's, if you can show it legitimately that you're going to do this or rent this house from you personally, from your business. So Valentine Group is a business that rents my house from me as a potential office. I have a written lease. They pay a lease payment every month. And what's happening is on Valentine Group, if I was just owning this house, I'd have all these expenses every year that are almost zero write-off. Okay. As a second home. So I still have those expenses. I have a mortgage, I have utilities, I have all these things. But Valentine Group now rents my house from me. So I have income coming out of the business. So if I made 30 grand, I'd be taxed on that 30 grand at about 30%, right? So
Exactly.
I'd pay about 10 grand in taxes. So instead, I've taken that 30 grand and I've now paid me personally to rent this house. So I've gotten 30 grand out of my business that's not taxed. So that saved me 10 grand. Plus the other 20 grand has actually gone to pay down the mortgage and the expenses on this house. So eventually what's happened, let's say this is a $400,000 asset over 20 years. My company's pulled $600,000 out of it tax-free. And I've moved it into my personal and I've utilized the expenses. And at the end of it all, I end up with a free and clear asset that the company pulled money out of to pay for me personally.
I like that thinking. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Got any houses around you?
Oh my God. Yeah, and let me, that's a great question. No. The Munns Parket market this morning, there was 5 homes on the market. 2 of those are single wides. It's been incredibly interesting to see the second home market and the explosion. Munns Park has never seen anything like this. The couple of real estate agents that have been up here forever have no idea how to really structure multiple offers and get bidding wars going. It's been interesting, to be honest with you. Stuff that sold in March this year, just as COVID was hitting, where people were like, oh, I'm going to get out of this. If those houses had gone on the market right now, they might be worth $100,000 more.
That's crazy.
It's nuts. It really is. And people are, you think it's bad down in Phoenix, you should try it here with the multiple offers and what people are willing to do. I mean, people are giving up their firstborn, putting on boxing gloves, anything and everything to latch onto a house up here. All right, guys, if there's no more questions, I'm going to go a second round tonight, or you can watch this recording. But thanks for being here, and I hope it was helpful. And again, make sure that you are taking some time to vision, work with your spouse, your partner, whatever it is. It might even be a business partner, and think about what that vision is for the company. You know, we use our house for company retreats and those types of things, which is awesome. So there's a lot of flexibility in it. And I would appreciate any social tagging in Instagram at Steve D. Valentine with any great information that you got today. I would greatly appreciate that. And if there's anything I can do for you guys, let me know. And especially up north, whether it be Sedona, Prescott, Pine Top, I want to be a referral source for you guys if that's helpful. So thanks, guys. Have an amazing day.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Welcome.